I'm Lily. Standing in the driveway of the Calabasas mansion, I watch as chaos unfolds before me. The once opulent housewarming party has turned into a nightmare. Flashing red and blue lights illuminate the night, and federal agents swarm the place like bees around a hive. My brother, Ethan, is being led away in handcuffs, his expensive suit now soaked and in tatters from his unexpected dip in the pool. My mother, Vera, is sobbing uncontrollably, mascara streaming down her face as she's also taken into custody. It's a scene straight out of a crime movie, and I'm the one who orchestrated it. Let me take you back to the beginning. I come from a well-to-do family in Los Angeles. My father, Henry, is a proud man with a big ego. He's always been more interested in maintaining a certain image than in the well-being of his family. My mother, Vera, is a social climber, always trying to fit in with the high society crowd. And then there's Ethan, my younger brother. At 28, he's been the golden child of the family, always getting away with his schemes and failures. Ethan recently got married to Ava, a luxury art broker. Their wedding in Malibu was a lavish affair, a display of wealth and excess. I, on the other hand, have always been the practical one. I work as a forensic accountant, managing massive federal tax escrow accounts for enterprise clients. I've always kept a low profile, focused on my career and staying out of the family's drama. The morning after the wedding, I was sitting at the marble kitchen island in the rented Malibu estate, enjoying the quiet before the rest of the house woke up. I opened my laptop to pay the final invoice for the wedding caterer. I'd already contributed more than my fair share to this wedding, but it was never enough for them. When I logged into my banking application, I was shocked to see a glaring zero in my primary checking account. I refreshed the page, thinking it was a glitch. But the number didn't change. I clicked on the transaction history and felt my heart drop. A wire transfer of $240,000 had been initiated and cleared just hours ago to an escrow account I didn't recognize. Just then, my mother walked into the kitchen, wrapped in a plush silk robe. She hummed a cheerful tune as she made herself a cup of coffee. "Good morning, Lily," she said brightly. "You're up early." I turned my laptop around so she could see the screen. "Someone hacked my account," I said, my voice dangerously calm. $240,000 is gone. I need to call the fraud department immediately. My mother didn't even flinch. She took a slow sip of her coffee and said, "Don't be so dramatic, Lily. I transferred the money last night while you were asleep." I stared at her in disbelief. "You what?" I asked, trying to keep my tone level. She explained, completely unashamed, "I used the old joint account access we set up when you were 18 for your college expenses. I'm still listed as a primary signer. I saw all that money just sitting there, and Ethan needs a $200,000 down payment for a new house in Calabasas. He has to impress Ava's elite art world friends. You know how important appearances are in her industry." The other $40,000 went to cover the rest of the wedding vendors. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You stole my money to buy Ethan a house?" I stated, stripping away all emotion from my voice. She scoffed and rolled her eyes. "It's family money. Ethan is building a future, a legacy. You're single and just sit behind a computer all day. What do you need that much cash for? You're still young. You'll earn it back." For my entire life, Ethan had been the golden child. He was allowed to fail, to lie, and to manipulate, while I was expected to fund his mistakes. My parents constantly drained my resources to prop up his fragile ego. But this was different. This was life-altering money. And what they didn't know was that the account they emptied was not my personal savings. It was a federal tax escrow holding for my corporate client pending an IRS audit. I looked at my mother, noting the smug satisfaction on her face. She expected me to cry, to beg, or to throw a tantrum. But I simply closed my laptop with a soft click. "You have until 5 o'clock this evening to return every single cent," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that commanded the room. My mother laughed loudly. Or what, Lily? What are you going to do? Ruin your brother's honeymoon? You're so selfish. I stood up, picked up my empty coffee mug, and walked it to the sink. I didn't raise my voice or show a single ounce of fear. I'm not going to do anything, Mom, I replied softly. But the federal government will. Before my mother could even register the weight of my words, Ethan and Ava walked into the kitchen. They looked like they'd stepped out of a luxury magazine, all smiles and expensive jewelry. Ethan didn't even look at me as he kissed my mother on the cheek and said, "Mom, that caterer was incredible." The caviar bar was a hit with Ava's clients. Ava glided over to the espresso machine, her eyes sweeping over me with practiced condescension. "Lily, you're already in a suit. We're in Malibu. It's the day after my wedding. You really need to learn how to turn off the spreadsheets and live a little. You can't take all those pennies to the grave with you. Stop hoarding your money and buy yourself something nice for once. Maybe a personal stylist." I looked at the heavy gold watch on her wrist and wondered how many of my clients' federal tax dollars went into financing it. "I'm afraid my budget is a bit tight this morning, Ava," I said smoothly. "Because your husband and my mother decided to empty my bank account while I was sleeping." Ethan let out a loud, exasperated groan. "Oh, come on, Lily. Are we really doing this right now? Mom told me she was going to move some funds around. It's a family account." I needed to lock down the Calabasas house before another buyer swooped in. "You know my startup is about to close a massive series of funding round next month. I'll pay you back with interest. Stop being so dramatic." I stared directly into his eyes. "There is no funding round, Ethan. You've defaulted on your last 3 business loans, and that was not a family account. I need $240,000 wired back into my account by 5 o'clock this evening. If the funds are not there, I will not be the one coming after you." Just then, my father, Henry, marched into the kitchen. He'd clearly heard the tail end of the conversation, and his face was flushed red with anger. He didn't ask what was going on. He immediately went on the offensive to protect his only son. He slammed his fist down on the marble island, making the coffee cups rattle. "That's enough," he bellowed, pointing a thick finger in my face. "You're not going to stand here and harass your brother on his honeymoon. Ethan just got married. He's building a future for this family. All you do is count other people's money and complain." I didn't flinch. "I'm not complaining, Dad. I'm giving him a deadline." My father sneered, his face inches from mine. "You listen to me very carefully, Lily. If you ruin this weekend, if you make one more threat about this money, I'll call my lawyer on Monday morning and write you out of my will entirely. You won't see a single dime of my estate. Do you understand me?" But I knew the truth about my father's estate. He was drowning in debt, taking out second mortgages to fund Ethan's failed ventures. There was no inheritance to lose. "I understand perfectly," I said. Without another word, I picked up my laptop, slid it into my leather travel bag, and zipped it shut. I slung the bag over my shoulder, grabbed my car keys, and walked toward the door. As I was about to leave, my phone vibrated. It was a toll-free number from the corporate fraud division of my primary banking institution. I answered the call. "Ms. Lily," a deep voice said, "this is Agent Thompson with the Enterprise Fraud Division. We detected a high-velocity wire transfer of $240,000 from your master account at 4 o'clock this morning. Due to the destination being an unverified escrow service, our system flagged it for immediate review. Did you authorize this transaction?" I took a deep breath and spoke with absolute clarity, ensuring my voice carried across the room. "Yes, Agent. That $240,000 was not personal savings. It is a federal tax escrow holding for my corporate client pending an IRS audit. Yes, the wire was unauthorized." The effect was instantaneous. The clinking of coffee cups stopped. My father's hand froze halfway to Ethan's shoulder. My mother spun around, her face instantly pale. Ava's smug smile vanished, replaced by a look of sheer terror. Agent Thompson remained professional. Understood, Miss Lily. Because this involves federal tax holdings, we are legally required to notify the IRS Criminal Investigation Division and immediately freeze the receiving account. We will also need to file a suspicious activity report regarding the origin of the authorization. Do you know who initiated the transfer? I shifted my gaze to my mother. Yes, I replied smoothly. The unauthorized user accessed the funds via an outdated joint account portal linked to my childhood profile. The primary signer on that old profile is my mother, Vera. You will find her digital signature and IP address on the transfer log. After hanging up the phone, I knew the trap was set. I walked out of the house and got into my car. As I drove away, I unzipped my travel bag and pulled out my laptop. I connected to the secure mobile hotspot and opened my administrative financial dashboard. For years, I'd been the financial safety net for my family. I'd co-signed loans to secure better interest rates for them. I'd kept emergency credit cards active under my name for their unexpected expenses. But that support ended today. I navigated to the first account on the list, a high-limit platinum credit card I'd given my father 3 years ago for emergency medical expenses. I pulled up the transaction history and saw recent charges for golf clubs and premium cigars. With a single click, I suspended the account and reported the card as lost. Next was the auto loan for Ethan's luxury sports car. I was the primary guarantor on that lease. Because he'd missed the last 2 payments, the bank had already sent warning notices to my portal. I authorized the bank to initiate immediate repossession protocols due to breach of contract. Finally, I opened the profile for my mother's revolving credit line. She used it exclusively to maintain her status at the local country club, charging expensive lunches and spa treatments. I completely revoked her authorized user status, closing the line of credit permanently. In less than 10 minutes, I'd systematically dismantled their entire financial infrastructure. I severed every single cord that attached my pristine credit score to their reckless spending. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was Ava. Lily, she hissed, her voice tight and frantic. I'm currently standing at the Emirates first-class check-in desk at the Los Angeles International Airport VIP lounge. There's a massive line of my high-profile clients and colleagues in the terminal, and the ticketing agent is telling me that our flights to the Maldives have been cancelled due to non-payment. I replied evenly, that sounds like a very stressful way to start a honeymoon, Ava. She snapped, don't use that tone with me. Ethan tried to give them his exclusive black card to rebook the tickets, and the machine declined it twice. The attendant actually asked him if he had a different form of payment in front of the entire first-class queue. I've never been so humiliated in my entire life. Ethan is currently on the phone with his bank yelling at some customer service representative about a system error. But I know this is your doing. You locked the accounts just like you threatened to do this morning. I reminded her gently, I did warn you all that there would be severe consequences for stealing federal tax funds. I simply removed myself from your financial ecosystem. What Ethan is experiencing right now is not a system error. It is reality. Ava let out a sharp breath. I don't care about your petty family drama. I care about my reputation. If my clients see me getting turned away from a flight because of a declined credit card, my career as a luxury art broker is completely over. I need you to wire $50,000 to my personal checking account right this second. Consider it a short-term loan to fix this ridiculous banking glitch you caused. I'll make sure Ethan pays you back the moment his startup funding clears next week. Just send the money, Lily. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. Ava, there is no banking glitch, and there is absolutely no startup funding clearing next week or next month or ever. Your husband is not a successful tech chief executive officer. He is a serial failure who has been living entirely off my credit score and my savings for the past 5 years. I didn't cancel your first-class tickets to the Maldives. The credit card company canceled them because I refused to pay the past due balance on the card Ethan used to book them. She hissed, "You're lying." Ethan showed me the portfolio for the Calabasas house. He showed me the wire transfer for the down payment. I replied smoothly, "He showed you a wire transfer of $240,000 that he and my mother stole from a federal tax holding account. The FBI and the IRS are currently building a massive wire fraud case against him as we speak. So, no, Ava, I will not be wiring you $50,000 to save your reputation at the airport lounge. If you want to fly first class to the Maldives, I suggest you ask your millionaire husband why his own cards are bouncing. Or better yet, maybe you should ask him to show you his actual tax returns." I ended the call. Not long after, my mother called. "Lily, you vindictive little brat. What on earth did you do to the credit cards?" Ethan is standing at the Emirates counter looking like an absolute fool, and my own country club account was just declined for a simple spa treatment. "You need to fix this right now." I kept my voice soft and measured. "I told you, Mom, I'm no longer funding your lifestyles. You have $240,000 of my client's money. You should have plenty to cover a massage." She hissed, "Listen to me, you ungrateful child. I'm entirely sick of this fake federal agent nonsense. You're throwing a tantrum because Ethan is getting married and building a real life while you sit alone in a sterile office. You want to play hardball? Fine. Let's play." She threatened to call my human resources department and tell them I was having a severe psychotic break. But this was the leverage I needed. I forced my breathing to sound shallow and erratic. "Mom, please. Please don't call my firm. You know how strict they are about employee conduct. If you call them, they'll suspend me pending an investigation. I could lose my license." She replied, her voice dripping with triumph, "Then you know exactly what you need to do, Lily. Turn the cards back on and fix this." I lied, my voice shaking slightly, "I can't just turn the cards on. The bank locked everything down because of the wire transfer. But there is a way I can stop the fraud investigation. I can call the bank and reclassify the $240,000 as a one-time familial gift. If I tell them I authorized it retroactively, the investigation drops and your accounts will clear." She commanded, "Then do it." I continued quickly, "But there's a catch. Because it's such a massive amount of money, the IRS requires a gift receipt declaration for my personal tax records. Otherwise, I'll be hit with a massive audit penalty next year. If I'm going to forgive this money and let Ethan keep it for the house, he has to sign a legal document acknowledging it was a gift from me." My mother let out a heavy sigh of annoyance but agreed. I told her I'd have my corporate lawyer draft the document immediately, and we agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near their rented Malibu estate the following morning. The next morning, I arrived at the cafe. Inside my leather briefcase was a single sheet of paper that my corporate attorney had stayed up until midnight drafting. It was disguised as a standard tax exemption form, but the legal jargon buried in the second paragraph constituted a full undeniable declaration of receipt of funds. Ethan and my mother arrived 10 minutes later. They looked exhausted from a night of declined credit cards and airport humiliation, but they still managed to project an aura of superiority. Ethan was wearing designer sunglasses indoors and strutted over to the booth, sliding into the seat across from me. He ordered, "Go grab me a double espresso, Lily. And get Mama a matcha latte. We barely slept last night dealing with that ridiculous bank freeze you pulled." I didn't move. "I'm not here to fetch you coffee, Ethan. I'm here to get the paperwork signed so I can call the bank and lift the fraud alert." Ethan rolled his eyes. "You're always so uptight. You really ruined the vibe of my wedding weekend." Ava is still furious about the airport. "You're lucky we're even giving you the chance to fix this. Most families would just cut you off completely after a stunt like that." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the crisp white document along with a heavy black fountain pen. I slid them both across the table. Here it is. The gift declaration. It states that I'm retroactively authorizing the transfer and that you're taking full possession of the funds for the purchase of the Calabasas property. Once you sign this, I can upload it to my tax portal and the bank will drop the investigation. Your cards will be active within the hour. My mother leaned over, but the dense legal formatting bored her. Just sign it, Ethan. Let's get this over with so we can go back to the airport and salvage the honeymoon. Ethan picked up the pen, twirling it between his fingers. He didn't read the paragraphs detailing his willful acceptance of unverified escrow capital or